Originally, Matt, he sent me a message saying if I buy that car, he'll sort me out the parts for it and we'll work out from there. I had his word originally from the start. Alex had the same thing. I think what's genuinely happened is we've got the car, someone there, which is Porsche side or Bugatti side, have said absolutely no chance. Matty has had to go back on his word and say, okay, we can't give you the parts.
Pressure has been quietly mounting across the automotive scene, but it has now reached a stage where it's impossible to overlook. What once seemed like a handful of unrelated situations has started to connect into a much larger pattern. One that's making even dedicated fans and serious buyers stop and rethink their assumptions. At the center of this shift is Bugatti, a brand long associated with unmatched engineering, rarity, and status. Yet instead of leading the conversation for its innovation, it's now being questioned for something far more critical: how it supports the very people who invest in its cars when problems arise. And the more closely you examine what's unfolding, the harder it becomes to dismiss it as isolated. There's a growing sense that the impact of this situation runs deeper than most initially realized. The concern isn't rooted in speculation or rumor. It's coming directly from visible, documented experiences involving high-profile figures in the automotive space.
I had his word originally from the start. Alex had the same thing.
You told me two things on the phone. You told me the first thing was that you're trying to figure out how you can get us parts to this vehicle, or two, that you were to get a technician out here to walk through with us how this car is going to properly get built, do it to the Bugatti standard. You gave me your word on those two things. Not sure what happened. 24 hours later, both those things kind of went out the window.
Individuals who not only own these cars, but also have the platform to show, in real time, what ownership actually looks like behind the scenes. When Matt Armstrong attempted to source parts for a legitimate rebuild, he wasn't met with cooperation or even negotiation. Instead, he encountered a system that effectively refused to support him unless he fully surrendered control of the process.
Will Bugatti sue you for your Chiron rebuild?
Do you know, like, me and Mate Rimac have spoken online. This is the crazy thing that I think has become like a Lionel Messi Ronaldo situation.
At the same time, Mark McCann found himself dealing with prolonged silence, struggling to get even basic communication regarding a critical gearbox issue. These aren't minor inconveniences. They are moments that reveal how the system behaves under pressure, and more importantly, how it responds when customers need support the most. For potential buyers observing from the outside, the implications are immediate and difficult to ignore. The question forming in their minds is simple, but it carries enormous weight. Why commit millions of dollars to a machine if the support behind it becomes conditional the moment something goes wrong? This isn't about affordability. The individuals considering these vehicles are fully capable of handling the purchase price. What they're evaluating is the experience that follows: the reliability of the network, the accessibility of parts, and the degree of control they retain after the transaction is complete. And right now, the signals they're receiving are far from reassuring. Hypercar ownership has always existed in a unique space. It's not comparable to conventional car ownership in any meaningful way. These vehicles are complex, highly specialized, and often require manufacturer involvement for maintenance and repair. But there is a critical distinction between necessary support and enforced dependence. Buyers at this level expect access to expertise. They don't expect to be locked into a system where every decision is dictated by the manufacturer. The difference may seem subtle on the surface, but in practice, it defines the entire ownership experience. One offers reassurance and flexibility. The other introduces uncertainty and restriction. What's unfolding now suggests that Bugatti's approach leans heavily toward the latter. By limiting access to parts and requiring that service be conducted exclusively within its own facilities, the company maintains tight control over every stage of the ownership lifecycle. From a corporate perspective, that level of control may appear logical. It ensures quality, protects the brand, and minimizes risk. But from the customer's perspective, it can feel like a loss of autonomy, especially when that control extends beyond initial purchase and into long-term ownership. The vehicle may belong to the buyer on paper, but in practice, its usability becomes tied to a system that the owner does not fully control. This dynamic becomes even more significant when viewed through the lens of trust. In the hypercar market, Trust is not optional, it's foundational. Buyers conduct extensive research before making a purchase. They speak to other owners, analyze experiences, and build a clear picture of what they can expect. And increasingly, that research includes content that is both unfiltered and widely accessible. Videos documenting real-world ownership experiences now reach millions of viewers, many of whom fall directly within the demographic capable of purchasing these vehicles. The narrative is no longer shaped solely by official channels or curated media coverage. It's being shaped by first-hand accounts, presented without the constraints of traditional marketing. That shift in visibility has created a new kind of pressure. Where once manufacturers could rely on controlled messaging and selective exposure, they now operate in an environment where every interaction has the potential to become public. And in Bugatti's case, those public moments are beginning to form a pattern. A refusal to supply parts in one instance, a lack of communication in another. Individually, these might be dismissed as exceptions. Together, they start to look like a system operating exactly as designed, one that prioritizes control over flexibility and structure over responsiveness. The timing of this shift is particularly important because it coincides with increasing competition in the hypercar space. Brands like Koenigsegg and Pagani are not just competing on performance or exclusivity, they're competing on experience. They offer vehicles that operate at a similar level of engineering excellence, but with a noticeably different approach to customer interaction. Owners report a greater sense of collaboration, more openness to customization, and a willingness to engage beyond the confines of strict corporate frameworks. In a market where buyers have multiple options at the same price point, those differences matter. Consider the decision-making process of a potential buyer evaluating a multi-million-dollar purchase. Performance figures are compared, design preferences are weighed, and exclusivity is taken into account. But beyond those tangible factors lies something less visible but equally important: confidence. Confidence that the manufacturer will provide support when needed. Confidence that problems will be addressed without unnecessary friction. Confidence that ownership will feel like a partnership rather than a negotiation. When that confidence begins to erode, even slightly, it can influence decisions in ways that are difficult to quantify but impossible to ignore. This is where the current situation becomes more than just a series of negative experiences. It becomes a potential turning point. If buyers begin to perceive Bugatti as a brand that restricts rather than supports, the impact could extend far beyond individual sales. The company operates on a model built around low volume and high margins. Each vehicle represents a significant contribution to overall revenue, and demand must remain consistently strong to sustain that model. A decline in buyer confidence, even at a modest level, could have disproportionate effects. The consequences wouldn't stop at new sales. The secondary market would feel the impact as well. Residual values for existing vehicles depend heavily on perceived support and long-term viability. If potential buyers become hesitant due to concerns about service and parts availability, demand in the used market could weaken. That, in turn, affects current owners, who may see the value of their investments decline more rapidly than expected. It's a feedback loop that can accelerate quickly, particularly in a market driven as much by perception as by tangible factors. What makes this situation particularly complex is that Bugatti's position is not without merit. The company's emphasis on control is rooted in legitimate concerns. These vehicles operate at extreme levels of performance, and ensuring that repairs are conducted to exacting standards is critical. Safety, liability, and brand integrity all play a role in shaping policy. From that perspective, restricting access to parts and centralizing service can be seen as a way to maintain consistency and protect both the customer and the product. However, the challenge lies in balancing those priorities with the expectations of modern buyers. Today's customers, particularly at the high end of the market, value transparency and flexibility. They are accustomed to having options, to being involved in decisions, and to having a degree of control over the products they own. When those expectations are not met, it creates friction. And when that friction becomes visible on a large scale, It can influence perception in ways that are difficult to reverse. Bugatti now faces a critical decision. It can adapt, recognizing the shifting expectations of its customer base and adjusting its approach accordingly. That might involve expanding access to parts, improving communication, and finding ways to support independent specialists without compromising safety. Such changes would signal a willingness to evolve, to prioritize relationships alongside control, and to rebuild trust where it has been weakened. Alternatively, the company can maintain its current strategy, continuing to enforce strict control over every aspect of ownership. This approach preserves consistency but risks further alienating customers who value autonomy. Neither path is without risk. Adapting requires acknowledging that the current system has limitations. Maintaining the status quo risks reinforcing the very concerns that are now beginning to affect buyer perception. The outcome will likely shape not only Bugatti's future, but also the broader direction of the hypercar industry. Other manufacturers are watching closely, observing how this situation unfolds and considering what it means for their own strategies. At its core, this is not just a story about one brand or a handful of incidents. It's a reflection of a larger shift in how ownership is defined in the modern era. As products become more complex and manufacturers retain greater control over their ecosystems, the line between ownership and access becomes increasingly blurred. The events surrounding Bugatti bring that issue into sharp focus, highlighting the tension between innovation and independence, between control and trust. And that's why this moment matters. Because it forces a question that extends far beyond hypercars and into every area where technology and ownership intersect. When you invest in something at the highest level, what are you really buying? Is it complete control? Or is it participation in a system that ultimately answers to someone else? The answer to that question will determine not just the future of Bugatti, but the expectations of an entire generation of buyers who are watching closely, evaluating carefully, and deciding where to place their trust next.